Liverpool 1-0 winners over Manchester City. By the way, Jurgen Klopp sent off late in this one.
Oh, it was a fun game.
It was a great game. It was a great game. As we take a look at the top half of the Premier League table, City now 4 points back of your league leaders Arsenal, who also won on Sunday against Leeds. Liverpool up to 8th with the victory at Anfield. All right, for more, let's welcome in Jan Agaf-Hjortov, Steve Nicol, and Frank Leboeuf. Stevie, I feel compelled to start with you. Almost everybody on this ESPN FC show said Manchester City would win this game, yourself included. How did Liverpool get it done?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it was down to what they did defensively. The fact that they kept a clean sheet, that I didn't hear one person on the planet say that they thought that City weren't going to score a goal. That really was the base of this victory. You know, going forward, the chances they created were better chances than Manchester City. Yes, Manchester City had more of the ball, but I think the way that Liverpool defended, absolutely 100%, was the catalyst for this victory, and it was something that I wasn't expecting. You know, they didn't have this crazy high line that they've been doing, not just this season, but I think they've been getting away with it for a long, long time, and this season it just fell apart. So they got rid of that. The full-backs didn't get caught ahead of the ball. It was old school defending is what it was. Two full-backs, don't get caught too far forward. And then the key, and I think this is something that Klopp has to remember about this game, the key to this is that Liverpool, whenever there was no pressure on the ball, whether De Bruyne had it or anybody else, they dropped off. And that's why they couldn't get in behind them. So, old school defending, Klopp needs to remember it. But for me, that absolutely was the reason why they won this game in the end.
Stevie, you're very focused, obviously, on the defensive performance. How much of that has to do with the fact that Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't start?
Unfortunately for him, it had everything to do with it. You know, because the guy's not a natural fullback. And we saw that when you keep a back line together and doesn't get separated pretty much for most of the game. They go forward together, they go back together, everything they do is together. Something that has been happening, and certainly something that has been happening with Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, you know, I spoke about the fullbacks not getting caught ahead of the ball. Well, if there's one thing that happens all the time with Trent is he gets caught ahead of the ball. And so that didn't happen, and they get the victory. The question now is, what does Klopp do with Trent Alexander-Arnold? Do you stick with this back line that doesn't gamble, particularly when there's no pressure on the ball? And do you stick with a pair of full-backs who don't go charging up the field every single minute of every single game? Because if you're including Trent Alexander-Arnold, you're not getting the defensive shape and the defensive ability that you got today.
Put on your manager hat, Stevie. What would you do?
Well, I really don't think he's got a choice. You know, at the end of the day, Klopp's got a responsibility to win games for the players, for the fans, for his bosses, for everybody at Liverpool. And if his thought is right, what is the best way forward? Then I'm afraid that the best way forward is not playing Alexander-Arnold at right back. You know, you need to figure it out. If you want to play him, you try him on that right-hand side in the three, if you're going to play with a three. Or if you're going to have two in front, do you play on one of the three that are in behind the lone striker? So he's got a lot to think about. Personally, when you've played Alexander-Arnold and you've played the way they've played, you've lost games. All of a sudden, you found a formula and you found a partnership in Gomez and Van Dijk, which, 2.5 years ago, before Gomez picked up that bad injury, was actually very, very successful. Because Gomez is not a full-back either, he's a centre-back. So he's got a lot to think about, but if I'm him, I'm sorry for now. Trent Alexander doesn't start.
Are we picking on the wrong guy here? In Alexander-Arnold? You think, Craig?
Well, not picking on him, it's just a question of will he come back
Are
in
we
the
wrong
side?
to focus on him then?
I think the answer is no. The answer coming back in the side is no. You've just kept a clean sheet and looked the best you've looked defensively against the best attack in the Premier League, maybe in Europe. It's the most solid you've looked. I worked for James Milner. apart from the goalkeeping position, you maybe centre-half as well, but you can pretty much put him anywhere. He's an amazing professional. I thought what typified it for me was the clearance from Van Dijk in the second half towards the end when Erling Haaland was about to nod it in from a yard, because he was switched on. And Liverpool have not been switched on, and they were just switched on today. It was the reboot that they needed. It could have gone either way. This could have demolished the rest of the season, or it could have rebooted them, and it's the reboot. It wasn't quite vintage Klopp of their best, but it was a damn sight close, and certainly closer than it's been. As Stevie's touched on all these things, they had a really good shape about them. We talked in midweek about getting a defensive midfielder in there to get some protection. It was no surprise Fabinho come back in. And they just looked solid. And they've looked anything but solid. It's a head scratcher. It is an absolute head scratcher to watch the way they've played until today.
Yeah.
And I think it's been a head scratcher for Klopp. But that was the Liverpool that we've become accustomed to. And it was the one that had to turn up. Otherwise, they were losing 4 or 5 today. It was a brilliant performance from them.
Jan, you were there at Anfield. Another big storyline is Liverpool were able to keep Erling Haaland off the board. How'd they do it?
They did it, as the boys saying, great basic defense. And then as well, that Erling Haaland didn't finish. He could have had 2 or 3 today as well. 2 headers in the first half that he actually headed the ball too well. But there was something about the place today, and I just want to add that the atmosphere at Anfield was electric. That was like a Champions League night. It's the only thing that I can say. One of those old-fashioned Champions League nights. And there was something about Klopp today going back to the basic. But there were times at the game that I was watching more Pep and Klopp, because there was a lot going on that bench, and you just waited for that incident to happen. And there was a whole thing going on that is a small funny thing, is that when Klopp put on 3 players, he took the number 11 came up. 11 is Mohamed Salah. And then no. And then he kind of took Salah over to have a tactical talk with him, and out he went and scored the goals. I mean, when we saw the video, it's more like you're so surprised that Salah don't score on the first one, because he's so good at that. He's one of the best going one against the goalkeeper. And don't underestimate that goal. The way he chips the goalkeeper there, using kind of an inside wrist kind of chip, fantastic.
If anybody on this program has been critical of Trent Alexander-Arnold, it is Frank Leboeuf. We know that. Frank, what did you make of Liverpool's defensive performance today without Alexander-Arnold at right back?
Well, it was simply outstanding, and I totally agree with the guys, and especially with Stevie. I think Klopp has to stick with what works, and today everybody was switched on. And you have to defend a little bit Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think if Van Dijk and Gomez would have played like that since the beginning of the season, you wouldn't have seen anything from Trent Alexander-Arnold weaknesses that we normally see, or lately we've seen. The thing is I think Trent Alexander-Arnold has to play a little bit further up. And you have to play Milner or somebody else, because Milner is 36 and maybe he cannot play every game. But you have to make sure that Van Dijk will be switched on like he's been switched on today, and not since the beginning of the season. When he's like that, he's the best centre-back in the world. And Craig mentioned the save that he made a yard away from his own goal line. That's worldwide. That's fantastic. I love that. The guy's concerned. He knows exactly what's going on behind him. He knows that Haaland is there. He knows where is his position. And he put the ball over the net to save and put it in corner kick. The long passes that he made in the first half, it's worldwide. That guy is worldwide today. With Gomez, with Robertson on the side. Don't forget Alisson, who made some saves, good saves. And Milner at the right. You have to go back to the basics, as Stevie mentioned, because it's where you're the best. And add Fabinho in the middle of the park to make sure that you're strong enough there where you know you have to win the battle. But I think it's not the end of the world for Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's going to play again. He will have to work hard defensively to make sure he's going to be better. But I think maybe his best position could be a little bit further up, where he can he can use all his talent because he has a real offensive talent, and you cannot erase that guy from the planet of football because he's not good defensively. He has duties that he can use and be useful for Liverpool, and I'm sure he's going to be there back and very soon because he's a very talented player.
So I think it's a little bit.
Just a small point.
I think it's a little bit unfair. Sorry, Jan, to be talking about a guy who didn't play and has had problems when Liverpool have played so well. I mean, I think it is an eye opener for him if he didn't already know so that he's got a 30-odd-year-old, whatever he is, midfielder who's playing fullback and doing a better job. He's got to understand that his standards defensively have got to be better, and he'll either rise to that or he won't. It's as simple as that.
Jan?
Yeah, and I think it's a valid point as well today. We've never seen De Bruyne so quiet this season. And I think that was something that was predicted during the week. Klopp said it in the press conference. A lot of managers do say that you have to stop the delivery to Erling Haaland. And I can remember in the 99 minutes they played, there was a fantastic pass he had in the first half with one of the headers of Haaland. But De Bruyne was very quiet today. And I think that was a part of the success of Liverpool today.
So take a look at the Manchester City starting 11 in the 1-0 defeat to Liverpool. The final score was 1-0 for Liverpool, Stevie, but it could have been a little bit more comfortable. Late in this game, there's a chance for Darwin Nunez, a €100 million man. It's a 3-on-1. He has Mo Salah wide open. I don't have a horse in this race. I was screaming at the television. I've watched games with you, Stevie. What were you doing?
And me. Oh no, I was doing the same. As soon as he got the ball, the one that was when he had 3 against 1. But I think if you notice, his head, he never lifted his head. You know, we've spoken over the last couple of weeks about Darwin Nunez, and the one thing missing from his game is seeing the picture. You know, because right now he lacks a little bit of composure. He's still trying to prove to everybody that he can play, and of course when you don't have that composure and you don't see the picture clearly, then that's the reason you don't figure out that there's 3 of you against 1, and you don't figure out and you don't lift your head and you don't see that Salah's on his own. It's about experience and raising your game and learning and regain, and getting that composure. That's what was missing in those two. There was another one as well, as you said. So it's about Nunez gaining experience or more experience, and somehow he has to figure out how to lift his head and see a clear picture. That's the one thing that he doesn't have right now, and that's the key to it all.
Stevie, it's a big game though, and he's not in the starting 11 as your big money guy. Like, big picture, how worried are you about what we're seeing from Nunez at Liverpool?
I'm not worried, not at all. Listen, he's learning his trade. He has great qualities. Defenders don't want to play against him the way he is right now. And I believe he's going to get better. So this guy's going to be great. This guy's going to be absolutely he's a handful right now as it is. The one thing that's missing is that final ball, that final decision. But that, in my opinion, will come. Now, there's no guarantee it'll come, but I expect it to. So I am not worried about Darwin Nunez. Not at all.
It might have been a bit of a head scratcher, but he wanted to play Salah a little bit more central. He wanted to have Firmino a little bit deeper. And one of the things about Roberto Firmino, and it's suitable for this game, is that he's not been having his best time in the last 6 to 12 months. But few forward players work as hard as him defensively. Now, when Man City, who generally dominate games, get the ball, you need those forward players. They can't be stood up there watching the game, watching all the other guys running around, chasing the ball. You've got to go back in and muck in. He's one of the best at working back into midfield and winning the ball back.
What do you think this leaves Liverpool?
I think we have to actually give a lot of praise to Klopp, because he got a lot of things right today. I certainly didn't expect James Milner at right back. I certainly didn't expect Gomez at centre back. I didn't expect to play 1 up front and 3 behind with the 2. So he got all of those things right, and he got the personnel. You know, you're talking about Nunez. You know, maybe if you're going to play 2-3-1, you play somebody like Nunez up front, but he didn't. You know, he plays Salah. But again, he gets everything right, because when they lost the ball, pretty much they had 5 in the middle of the park. which makes it even harder for the opposition. And today it was City. Now, the fact that Liverpool were not keeping that high line and were dropping means there's more running for the midfield. There's more running for that 5 I'm talking about, which they did.
Sebi,
but guess what? You got 5
Sebi, the thing
subs.
for me.
So you can keep doing that.
Frank?
Yeah, I think now, because and Craig mentioned that it's a real reference, that game for the Reds. They have no excuses now, because well, they played 3 days ago, even if they won against in Champions League, whatever. They found the freshness that they needed, but they don't have any excuses. They beat maybe the best team in the world right now. Manchester City is the best team in the world. In the way they play, it's impossible to cope with, but they did today. In many ways, everywhere, every line. Therefore, they don't have any excuses. If we don't see what we saw today, it's because they're not switched on. I mean, we saw what we saw 2 years ago. And even the fans, today they switched on. It was a different atmosphere. It was an atmosphere from 2 years ago when everybody was very hungry.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.